Hi guys. Before going to start today's session, I just wanted to know, have you guys started working on the assignments, or have you guys started at least importing the project and tested some flows on what we did yesterday? Because I haven't seen any email from anybody yesterday saying that they had some issues. So I am assuming that everybody started working on the assignments and everybody is fine with the flow. I mean, like nobody has any issues with the environment setup or understanding of the modules, what we discussed yesterday. Not only yesterday, from day one till yesterday. If you guys have any questions before going to start the session, I'll try to answer if you ask me. Or if you have any issues with the setup, or if you have any issues with your importing the project into Eclipse, or maybe if you're using IntelliJ, please ask me. I can help you with that.
It is Akshay here.
Hey, Akshay, how are you?
Uh, yes, I'm fine. And you?
I'm good too. Thanks for asking.
Yes, sir. It's actually an yesterday session. AOP concept is like the recording is missing some of AOP recording, and I'm new to AOP. I did not work even on AOP, so it's little bit difficult to me understood.
Uh, sure, I'll try to. Maybe I'll spend 15 minutes or so to explain what is AOP again today once everybody joins.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Thank you very much, sir.
but apart from that, were you able to import the project, or were you able to create the Maven project, which we
Yes,
discussed?
sir. Everything is fine. Apart from
So were
that,
you able
everything.
to set up Maven properly?
Yes, sir.
Cool, that's good. So have you guys started implementing the new functionalities which I asked you guys to implement, like updating the truck details? Because I didn't do it, so that will be a good functionality for you guys to get your hands dirty, so that you guys may have some good experience in in going through the flow, appropriate flow. Have you guys tried it or not yet? Guys, yes, no, do you guys want me to call out your name and ask? I can do that. Are we missing anybody? I'm seeing a couple of guys are not here. Deeksha, Viresh, Sagar, and Ramal. Okay. Okay, guys. So can I assume that everybody is fine with their environment setup and everyone is trying out some of the flows which we discussed, and also you guys were able to complete the assignments on time?
Harish, for me, yesterday I was busy with my work, so I didn't get time to work on the assignment. I'll work on it today.
Okay, sure, no problem. So apart from her, everybody else? Guys, am I audible to everyone clearly? Are you guys
Yes,
some issues with my voice?
Hi Harish, this is Kirisha.
Hi, Shirisha.
Actually, yesterday I set up my manual and I faced some issues, so I fixed that one. So today I worked on this task.
Cool. That's good. That's good. Okay. Let's start our session by recapping the concepts what we discussed from day one. Okay. I want everybody's participation here. Okay, guys. Let's start. Let's start with servlets first, because till yesterday whatever we saw, that is the end of the spring. From today onwards we'll be talking about SOA architectures, we'll be talking about web services, and we will be discussing about Spring Boot features and how to implement services in Spring by using Spring Boot features. Okay, so that's why I'm going to do a quick recap of what we learned, and we'll compare, and we'll also find out some of the difficulties which we faced in our development phase, and how our Spring going to help us to eliminate these kind of difficulties what we faced. Okay, so let's start with servlets. If you guys want a starting point, I can do that. In servlets I had to write unnecessary boilerplate code. That means even for every functionality I have to write a new servlet. Okay, right. Let's go with the second one.
After creating each and every servlet, we need to map that in deployment descriptor.
Okay.
Sorry, web.xml.
Can I frame it something like too much of XML configurations?
Right.
Any other disadvantages, any other problems which you guys faced?
Yeah, for DB connections also we need to manually add the jar file and establish the DB connection.
Okay, so can I frame the sentence something like boilerplate code for establishing DB connection? That means
Yes,
unnecessary code.
yes.
Okay, what else?
Exception handling become very easy with the Spring.
No. We are
Means
still
we
in the
do not
servlets. Let's compare
worry about
the
the
Springs
exception
later.
handling also.
We are still in the servlets because I do expect some other points, Shahan. Anyway, that was a good point with the Spring. Right. So how about, can somebody speak about MVC pattern here? Is it possible for us to implement MVC pattern in servlets? Are we segregating the backend code and the front end logic, or are we mixing everything? We had discussion about this as well, right?
Yes, Harish.
Yes.
Cool. So can I say something like, it is not possible to segregate the presentation logic from the business logic in servlets. It's hard to. Right. Okay. So exception handling is not that easy in servlets because we will be writing some of the code in the JSP pages. So sometimes if you miss any kind of exception, there is a chance that it may throw the exception. It may show that exception in our front end, in our HTML pages or JSP pages, right? Now, let's speak about Spring Framework and how it resolved the problems which we discussed in servlets. Okay, if you guys want me to pick, I'll pick.
In Spring Framework, we have discussed about what is Spring and the advantages of Spring. Like it provides many of the predefined classes, and it is using framework we can achieve modularity, and it is lightweight, open source, maintenance also easy in Spring.
Can I say something like comes with predefined classes so that I can use them instead of writing the boilerplate code, right?
Yes, perfect. Spring Framework can be written top about the servlet.
That's a good point. Spring Framework is an abstraction layer on top of servlets. Right.
So Spring Framework is lightweight, open source, and also maintenance is easy.
And it is a modular framework.
Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. Thank you. Spring Framework is lightweight, modular, and open source. Right. Anything else?
Loose coupling, Harish.
So we can achieve loose coupling using Spring Framework.
Right.
JDBC handling is better.
Yes, JDBC handling is better. Definitely. Thank you.
Core Spring, like IOC container.
Perfect. So
Spring
what
also
is
provides the design patterns.
We'll
Spring
speak about
provides
design
the
patterns
design
as well.
patterns.
What is IOC container here, please?
Yes, IOC basically inversion controller. It is a container in Spring Framework, basically, which is used to create the object, manage the object, destroy the object, also adding dependency between the object. All those things are taken care by IOC container.
Right. So can we speak about dependency injection? I need what are all the different types of DI which we
We
discussed?
have also different types of inversion controller.
Constructor,
Thank you.
field based.
Constructor based,
Setter injection.
Setup based,
field based,
file based, right?
setter injection. Right. So in field based, again, we discussed many things, right? Like by type, by name, by
Yes,
default.
yes.
By type.
By name, auto add using that auto add annotation here.
By type, by name. Constructor, you can specify. Constructor, right. Next. What else we discussed, guys?
Dispatches. Yes, yes.
So I want somebody to explain MVC here, because that will be the design pattern which will be following in most of the applications.
MVC basically stands for Model View and Controller. Model basically it is used to store the data. View is used to display the data, and controller it acts as a mediator between model and view. You can say model used to store the data.
Yes.
View is used to display the data.
Yes.
Controller is act as a mediator between model and view. Means it taken care of the taking the request, and it talks with service. It talks with service. It talks with DAO. Means it will be taken the request and processing the request, getting the response back to dispatcher servlet.
Thank you, Akshay. That's a good
We
point.
can frame like controller is act as a mediator between model and view,
Yes, perfect. That's a
which
good point.
is processing the request and getting the response back to dispatcher servlet.
So, anything else, guys? Didn't we speak about JSTL?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, there is my network issue.
So, what is JSTL, guys? What is the need for JSTL? I guess I discussed what is the need for JSTL as well. When we
Jstl,
discussed about
using
MVC.
Jstl tag, we can go for JSP. It provides some tags like
Yeah, we can write the logic in the JSP pages itself using JSTL. Uh, it provides if conditions for looping tags.
Perfect. Perfect. That's a good point. Now, didn't we speak about Spring Expression Language?
Right.
So we spoke about Spring Expression Language. I told you when we implementing this IOC, I showed you how can be done, and at the same time, I showed you how we are reading the properties in our dispatcher servlet. I mean, like the truck management hyphen servlet.xml, right? Um, getting the DB details from a properties file. That is expression language. Cool. Now, did we miss anything here?
this is me is like many of the
Validation.
annotation
Yes.
Validations are
dispatcher
very
servlet.
much used with Spring. Like we have used at the rate not empty, not null, and there we had introduced that valid annotation. So
Perfect. Not empty.
validations are very convenient in Spring.
Guys, I didn't cover as it's a very huge concept to cover all the validations. I thought you guys will explore that. There are so many, like at the rate pattern you can do for pattern matching, at the rate email for email matching, right? But basically we need to cover the concept of validations, right? Next, I need to know what exactly is controller. We spoke about controller. If you guys want to
Basically,
explain
controller
about a
is
dispatch
a
servlet,
stereotype annotation. At that controller basically it is a stereotype annotation,
yes.
which is make our class as controller. If we applied over at that controller over that class, it will be make our class as controller. And basically it is used to process the request and getting the response. We can say easily. Means
Okay.
normally it will be taking the request and getting the response. Process the request and getting the response.
I would say it's just a request handler.
Yes, because everything is done in like in our service class, in our service layer.
Perfect. So, didn't we speak about different controller or dispatcher servlet? Can somebody explain the flow? How the flow works in Spring?
Yes,
Not you, Akshay. Somebody else, please. How about Diksha? I guess she's not her desk. Okay. How about Prabhakar? Can you explain me about the dispatcher servlet flow quickly?
Yes, Harish. So first, request comes to the dispatcher servlet and then handler mapping.
Request to DS, right? Points.
Hello.
And after
Diksha
that,
this side. Sorry. I was so. Can I continue or Prabhakar will say?
It's okay. Let Prabhakar continue. Maybe we can take the next topic for you.
Okay, sure, sure.
Sure.
and after handler mapping, it goes to the controller, proper controller.
Okay. Handler mapping will be in the controller basically.
Yeah. So then service layer, and then proper service, and DAO layer.
Okay. Basically, it will do some logic. Okay. Business logic.
Yes. Model. Yes.
Right. Next.
And after the model containing the data and the view name, and it will goes to the view resolver to resolve the view by the internal view resolver by prefix and suffix.
Perfect. Resolve the view. After that, again, view will be displayed.
And
The control will come to dispatcher, and the view will be displayed. That's a good point. Thank you.
yes, right.
Right. Before moving to Spring, I want you guys to tell me what are the different ways that we, different annotations or different XML configuration files which we use to create beans. Because in Spring Boot, we will be doing that a lot. Okay.
We have
I want you guys to
Android
tell me what are
beans,
the annotations which we use to create a bean. That means a bean in IOC, not just
Android
object, plain
beans. We
object.
have Android beans, Android component.
Red bean, red component. Right. What else?
We have Android component scan, which is scan our class path for classes and dependency.
Yeah, component scan. That's a good annotation. Thank you, Akshay. I almost forgot that. Component scan to scan your classes to find is there any potential candidate to create a bean. Perfect. So any
At
other
the rate
annotation?
property source.
So we discussed about property source.
Yes.
Right.
At the rate enable web MVC.
Okay. Can you please explain me why we need that? Didn't I specify it just to mention that to tell our IOC this is a web enabled, right? It is a web enabled application on which we are following MVC pattern, right?
Yes, right.
Cool.
Yes.
What else? Didn't we talk about at the rate configure annotation?
Yes, we have cut about Android configuration, which is configure our classes. Yes.
Duration. What else?
Can you say other annotation like auto controller?
Perfect. We spoke about AutoWire as well.
Yes. We spoke about request mapping event,
Request mapping annotations.
which is map the request. We have discussed about request param
Perfect.
and model attribute. We have also to take the model attribute.
Guys,
But
I told how we discussed about how IOC will resolve the issue with duplicate beans, right? I mean, like,
yes, we have qualifier.
perfect.
Yes, right.
Qualified to do that. And we
Qualifier
also
which
discussed
is
about
used
primary.
to avoid the ambiguity problem.
And what exactly primary will do? Not Akshay, anybody else.
It will be
Akshay. Guys, if you don't understand, I'm happy to explain again, because these are the basic concepts if you go for Spring any version and even Spring Boot as well. That's why I'm focusing more on this. If you are strong in Spring Boot, you can learn in, it's very easy to learn. Didn't I tell? It is an annotation to specify
At
I
the
would
rate
say by default.
primary will be used by.
Sorry, Shannon. Go ahead.
Yeah. Suppose we are having two beans with the same name, or if we don't specify the bean names as well, so IOC will take the class name with the first letter in the small letter. It will do the small letter first letter,
Yeah,
and then
the
it will
camel
follow
case.
the
You can
camel
use the camel
casing.
case one.
Yeah, camel casing it will follow, and then create the bean. So
Yes.
suppose two beans are having the same names. Then at that time it will we can use the
Same
primary
like.
key that
Sorry to cut you.
which one we want to use the. Yeah, sure.
Sorry to cut you. Is it same name or same type?
Sorry, it is the same type.
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah.
Right. Same type. Right.
Yeah, so basically we are using the primary to tell the IOC that you need to pick this default bean if
Yes.
I'm not defining which one you want to use. So we will be using primary.
So everybody is clear with that concept, right?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Cool.
Harish, at the rate qualifier will also, I mean, it will also do the same thing, right?
Yes, there is. I told you yesterday, guys, there is a little bit difference between primary and qualifier. So qualifier, we have to pass the name of the bean here, something like this, right? Let's say truck DAO. So it will pick this bean based on the name, right? Here, primary, it is not that case. The case of primary is different. So in case of conflicts, if you specify primary on one bean creation, let's say component and primary for truck DAO. Let me do that. Something like component, right? And my truck DAO class. So now my IOC will pick, irrespective of what, it will pick this bean, right? Even though there is a conflict, until unless you specify explicitly like qualifier to pick the other bean by using the name. So until unless you specify anything, it will pick the default one. Primary is default. So clear with that, guys? Any questions on that?
No, Harish, clear. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, no problem. Right. So I guess we discussed about completely annotation based application development in Spring, right?
Yes.
Yes, Satish.
Right. It's cool. I guess we covered almost all the topics. Moving forward, we discussed about Maven. It's not much, whatever is required to get started on our Maven building applications, but still we discussed about Maven. Can somebody please tell me a single liner about Maven?
Maven is actually a build configuration tool. So you can say it is a project management tool.
Project management tool. Perfect, that's all. Right. We discussed about MySQL as well. Some of the basic syntaxes. Because in this session, we have been using MySQL extensively to store the information. So can somebody just tell me the statements roughly which we used and which we discussed? If you want, I can name them.
Yes, we discussed about all the DDL and DML commands.
Yeah, okay, let's name that way. Perfect. DDL and DML commands.
Like select, all, insert into, alter the table.
Perfect. Yeah, thank you guys. This is what I expected from day one. It was a really good interaction. So now I have confidence that you guys were following my session seriously. Thanks for that, guys. Now moving forward in our session. So I had a question. Sorry, I was asked to repeat the AOP concepts again. I'll try to cover maybe in 10 minutes. Okay, right, let me share my screen. So let me open this. And where is my configuration? Here. Right. Okay. My paint. Open. Like this. Okay. So in a layman terminology, we discussed what is aspect, what is point cut, what is join points. Again, I'll try to repeat the same. First, let's come to join points. Join points are nothing but it's an method in the state of execution. If we consider the example which I gave yesterday, so we took a method as an example, that is while inserting the data into our database, right? So add truck details. So that can be considered as a join point when it comes to the execution. Now, what is point cut? This is the expression. This is an expression which we, based on which we will select our join points, right? So in yesterday's example, I specified something star execution and my complete package name truck.dao.truckimpl, right? So that's where you have to go and find that. That's the expression. Or in other words, I can tell it's a predicate. If you follow the Java 8 norms, it's a predicate. Now, what is advice? That is the actual logic which we are going to implement, or a business rule or a rule which we are going to impose. The actual logic. And what is aspect? Aspect has everything. Okay, there is an aspect and it will execute that. So we need aspect to execute this before or after. Now, moving forward to the code, but before that, do you guys have any questions on this? Because I went through really quickly, because this is the second time I'm repeating. Yep. Somebody has a question.
Hello, Harish. Can you once again explain join points? It was like too fast.
Oh, okay, cool. Right. Join points. It's a method in execution, in the state of execution. For example, in our example which we took yesterday, so I was trying to insert some data into our truck table, truck details table, and the method which I used is add new truck. So in our case, that is a join point when it comes to execution phase. Clear?
Yes, okay.
Perfect. Right. Any other questions on that? Okay. Now let's go to the code and I'll show you what exactly I meant about all these which we spoke about: aspect, advice, point cut, join points. Okay. Let's come to aspect J. So if we specify a class as an aspect here like this, that makes the aspect. Now again, from my statement, aspect has all the information which we need to do, which we need to execute. Right. Coming here, I talked about predicate. This is the predicate. So what are we telling our aspect? Find point cut. Okay. And how you have to find point cut is go to this class which is present in com.truckdao.truckimpl, and I don't mind about any name of the methods or signature of the methods. Just search everywhere, and if you find any argument which has truck details and username, okay, that is basically name of the arguments, guys, then that's where you have to execute this aspect. Clear with that statement, guys? Okay. Now I wrote @ before. That means it is an indication to the aspect when you have to execute. That means after you find this method, okay, if you are successful in finding this method, then execute before execution of that method. So first this statement will be printed, then our normal execution will be done. So now my aspect will take parameters, that is join point, because based on this predicate, our aspect were in a position to decide, okay, what is a join point, what is the execution method. Okay, that is my join point, and I specified anyway arguments. I know the arguments, so I'm taking the arguments. Right, I'm printing them here. I have given a simple example, guys. Basically, there are some other implementations of aspect oriented programming. Basically, for logging, we did that. Instead of loggers, I use system.out.println, the statements here. Sometimes you may have to do the security as well, the security checks. Okay, yeah, these are some of the implementations, but there is a strong debate. Somebody may tell, hey Harish, I can do everything in the same method. I can log these details in the same method, right? I told my statement already, in case if you're not able to do that, you can do that here. And what are the other ways of doing this? As I showed yesterday, so we can use after returning. So we can use after returning. That means after the method execution, and it will return some value, right? So if you go to this method, which I have been speaking about, sorry, let me open truck DAY-MPL. So add truck. Okay, after executing this return statement, our aspect will come into picture and it will execute. If we use after return, what we did here, let's say if I use after throwing, that means if my method results in an exception here, and we are throwing some exception, let's say here I'm catching, but if in our case, if we are throwing an exception, at that point of time, our aspect will come into play and it will execute and it will print these statements, right? And let's see what else I have. There will be something called around, right? I told you this is a very powerful annotation, guys. So it is like a wrapper on top of your the actual join point. So it has capacity to execute before and after. Even you can control the flow of the statement, which means you can cut down the flow. You can return the method here itself instead of going into the actual execution of this truck DAO IMPL dot add new truck. So you can do that. Even you can throw an exception using this around. Okay. So any questions on that, guys? Cool. So let me change it back to before.
Harish, for after returning,
Yes.
can we write an aspect saying that after after a successful execution of any service in a particular DAO-IMPL, we want this method to be executed. This aspect.
You can do that. So simple. It's just after return, and your predicate here. The predicate is telling, since I use some arguments, so it will execute only for that particular method which has these kind of arguments. Else we can specify for everything.
Okay, Harish, thanks.
Cool. Right. So
Harish,
yes, please.
what kind of scenarios we can use this Spring AOP? I mean to say, in like when we will know that we will use this Spring AOP.
Okay, that's a typical question. I'll try to answer in layman terms as easily as possible. Okay, right. Whenever you need a, okay, I gave an example yesterday. If we deal with some loggings, we cannot log the entire exception in the log file. Okay, what do I mean by that? Let me show. Here, I cannot write e.print stack trace. So there will be something logger will be defined. Okay, log dot error, and I will get e.get message. That's all. So in this scenario, okay, I will get the message. The message is data access exception. That's all. I don't know what is the actual reason for that. So at that point of time, I can use this predicate. Let's say, let me revert this back. So I can return this and I can write after throwing, and I can log the values here, the exception and everything, whatever I want. So this is a good example. And the second one, okay, let's talk about this. So you don't want somebody to execute that method. Maybe it doesn't have privileges. Let's say admin and user. Okay, this is something related to security. So at that point of time, you can use this and you can prevent the accessing for that method. These are some of the typical examples, but anyway, there are different ways of doing the same what I spoke. That's what I'm telling. So there is a debate. There people will debate that I can do everything in the method. Why I have to use these aspects? So did I answer your question?
Yes, Harish.
Sure. Any other questions, guys? Right. Now, moving forward. A quick question to you all. How many of you have worked with SOA? Or how many of you know what is SOA? S-O-A. Okay. Let me rephrase. Sorry, guys. Let me ask another question. How many guys know about web services? At least a definition.
Yes, Harish.
Yes, sir. Is actually I worked on REST services.
You worked on REST services.
Yes, not more, like some little.
Okay. Can you define what is a service? Very generic term. I don't want what is REST service. We'll come to REST service later. But very generic term. What is service? Let me open my notepad again. Okay. What is a service? Basically a web service, not a service, web service. Maybe a single liner will do. Anyway, I will explain that, but I just wanted to know your understanding, you guys' understanding level. Anybody?
Hi Harish.
Yes, yes, Johan.
The method of communication between two devices over the network, it is a client-server application.
Okay. Okay.
The method of communication between two
That's a
devices.
good point. The method of communication. Perfect.
Between
That's a valid point.
two devices. Yeah.
Yeah, it can be two devices. Basically, I'll refresh this a little bit, but it's a good starting point. Right. Okay. If you ask me to define, I'll define something like this. A web service is a piece of code, okay, which will allow application to application communication possible, or which will allow the application to communicate with another application in easy way. Right. And I can also tell a web service is platform independent, system independent, and it is also language independent. That means it doesn't matter. So it should be in a position to it should be in a position to communicate with one more system. Okay, it doesn't matter what kind of technology you used to develop. Let's say you might have used Java for one service. You might have used one more application. Maybe you might have used .NET or Perl, Python. That's up to you. Or maybe Golang. It doesn't matter in which application you develop your web service. It should be in a position to communicate with other one. Or you might have deployed in Linux, or you might have deployed in Mac, or you might have deployed in Windows. It doesn't matter again. Okay, so this is platform independent and even language independent. So let me define that here. just a, again guys, it's just a piece of code. It's just a code, that's all. It can be written in any language, which will provide the communication, that's all. And it's not only between device to device, it's between application to application and also application to human as well. System independent, language independent, also platform independent, which provides or which enables mission to mission communication possible, or which enables the application to application communication easier. Okay, so any questions on that concept, guys? So any questions on the statement which I made, or any corrections, or if you guys didn't understand anything about web service? Anyway, we will see that in practical, but this is just a definition, right? Before going forward with the SOA application or SOA architecture and the implementation of SOA, right? I want you guys to tell me what are the different communication protocols you ever used or at least heard of.
Basically, in
Basically,
REST, we have
HTTP
HTTP protocol.
Communication
and MQ.
protocols, right? HTTP, that's a good one. Anything else?
And MQ,
ActiveMQ,
messaging queue.
basically, yeah, I can specify MQ, that's a good one. Anything else?
FTP.
Are these like SMTP?
Okay, SMTP, simple mail transfer protocol, that's good, that's a good one. Yes. You ever heard about RPCs,
RP, yeah, RPC.
remote procedure calls?
Yes, yes.
You ever heard about gRPC?
gRPC.
No? Yes. It's a Google remote procedure call, guys, related to Go programming. Okay, that's one of the trending in the market right now. It's way faster than HTTP, right? And many more. We can go with SOP, but it's a message protocol though, right? We'll see why I asked this question in later point of time. But right now there are many ways. But for this session, we will be concentrating more on HTTP and HTTPS if time permits. Okay. Again, what is HTTPS?
It is the secure version of HTTP.
Okay. Hypertext transfer protocol over secured socket layer or secured layer. What does that mean? We will be adding extra protection over our HTTP. That's all. And there is one more way of communication. I would say like sockets, but it's not that popular right now. Once upon a time, it was a good technology. Right. Now, coming to SOA. What is SOA? Let me define. Okay. Does anybody know what is SOA? I mean, at least abbreviation. It's okay. Let me put it this way. It's a service-oriented architecture. So before going to understand what is service-oriented architecture, let's see what are the faults, what are the problems in our current, not in current, because current it's a trend of SOA and microservices and everything way earlier. Let's go back at least like 10 years back, probably during the time of 2000s, 20 years back. So let's see what was the problem with the current applications. For this, let's take the simple example what we developed till today. from past 5 days. So we developed our a Spring based application, and we named it after truck fleet to maintain the trucks, right? To maintain the truck details. So can somebody, what is the problem with that? I'll give you the scenario. Think about that and tell me what kind of problems you can think of. Let's say we implemented some other functionalities. Consider like as of now we are just maintaining the truck and we are not doing anything. So let's say I implemented one more functionality, right? Booking the truck for rent. Okay, you can book a truck for rent and you can return it whatever the day you choose for. Okay, maybe day or a month. Right, I implemented one more functionality. If you are owner of a truck, let's say if you have a truck, if me Harish owns a truck, I can put my truck in our website, what we did, and I can make money even though I don't even though the website doesn't own the truck. Okay, so I can advertise my truck and I can make some money if somebody books it. So as a owner I can truck, and in case of bookings I can make money. Right, now this because of these functionalities, just assume, okay, it's assumption again, there are so many of these applications. So for assumption only, by implementing these functionalities our truck application became too famous, and as of now let's say we are based out of Bangalore. Now I want to expand my wings and I have to go all over the India, right? But if I go to Hyderabad, nobody knows about my truck management. Okay, so but there are some other players in the industry. Let's say, how many of you know about this online ticket booking systems, something like Expedia? If you want to book cars, forgot the name, let me come up with it. Enterprise cars. Okay, so they don't own the car. What they will do is whatever the concept which I did here, they'll do that. Churro cars, something like that. So now what I want to do is I want to publish my cars, the availability of my cars, my trucks in their website, because anyway there is a functionality for me to book in my website. I can use my website to book it, but it is not so famous that people don't know, right? People may not be knowing about this truck booking system. Instead they know some other website which is very famous. They may use that. So I wanted to advertise our truck in their system to get the bookings to our application. So how can I do that with the current implementation of our application? Guys, if you don't understand the problem statement, please ask me, I'll explain again, because there is a problem statement which we are going to solve throughout this rest of the application implementations.
In that case, I think we have to reinvent the wheel. Like if we are no one is knowing about our truck service, we have to build some application, or we have to collaborate with the companies, with the giant companies in Hyderabad. So we have to collaborate with them.
Okay,
So
create
suppose
an application altogether. With collaboration, right? So now I'm asking problems here, guys. We'll go for the implementation later. Is it possible for me to integrate my current application with another application? Because the other application guys will have many of other integrations, not only our application. They may deal with some other hundreds of truck companies, okay, to do the same kind of business, right? Okay, if it is too confusing, okay, let me put it in another way and give you one more example. I'm assuming every person in this batch might have at least booked a flight ticket. Can I assume in that way?
yes,
Okay, now can you please tell me the website which you booked?
Make my trip
Okay.
is
Quickly, let me
easy
open
to.
Make My Trip web application.
Yeah.
Okay. Make my trip. Okay. Let me do a quick search. Flights. Let's say from Delhi to Sydney. Forget about anything. Maybe 17th. Search. Okay. Taking time. Why are you doing this? Okay, now it's coming. Unfortunately, you can't find any flights. That is weird. Okay, let me open one of the application which I use frequently. Expedia. It's more or less same to book flights. Come to flights. Okay, please select origin. Weird. Why am I not able to select anything? Where's that? Toronto. BLR. Okay. So there are some issue. I can show the real-time data here. Okay, let me put it this way. Toronto to Montreal. Okay, BC. Vancouver, BC. Okay, it might be easy. So it's just 2 cities in Canada, guys. So if it opens up, it will be easy for understanding. That's why I'm waiting. Okay, now if you see, I am seeing multiple flights, right? So it is Flair Airlines, I'm seeing WestJet, I'm seeing Air Canada, I'm seeing Air Canada. Right, there are multiple kinds of vendors, multiple kinds of service providers, right? WestJet again. So do you think Expedia guys maintain this database in their database? If I go to westjet.com, okay, I can book the same flight there as well. Now my question is, how Expedia guys were able to get the data from WestJet? How Expedia able to get the data from Air Canada? This is the same
Basically, it will
exact problem which I asked earlier in a different way. That's all.
basically it will be talk about the network. Our application will be talk about the network with other application by using same web service kind of things.
So we don't know about the technology, but there a service to a application to application communication was established. Is possible, right?
Yes, right.
So that's what I was expecting. That's what exactly I was expecting. So in our application, do you think with the current implementation, okay, do we have the capacity to talk or communicate or send our truck details to another application?
No.
We
Not
haven't
now.
implemented any kind of, any kind of services or any kind of technology that will help us to communicate with another application. So our application is tightly coupled to our front end. That's all. At a max, they can book our trucks by visiting our website. I'm not able to sell our trucks in another website. So how are we going to solve this problem? Since I already developed my application, I'm telling you guys, don't consider this as a small application. Imagine it has been already developed and in production, and it is generating some revenue. So if I'm the owner of the company, or if anybody, any person, they won't accept for completely writing a new application, because we already spent some time, okay, we already invested some money, and we have already some resources working on that. I'm able to make business. I'm able to run the business. So at this point of time, how can I come up with a solution, okay, to communicate with one other application? So I need to come up with a solution. How can I do that? That's where this SOA comes into picture. Service oriented architecture. That means whatever the architecture earlier you're following, that is fine with that. Now let's do in a SOA way. So even though if your production ready, if your application is production ready, which means if your application is running already, what I will do is by implementing this SOA, I will put services on top of your service layer, already existing service layer, right? We did the we did controller, service, DAO, and communicating with database. Now what I'm doing along with controller, I'll introduce one more a layer that is called a service layer, which means our web services will come into play, and that will talk with the DAO objects and will get the information. So any questions on that concept, guys? Anyway, I will go in detail about SOA, but to give an overview of SOA, this is what SOA is. So any questions on that?
Harish, in this case, our already existing application, which is working in production, will continue to work same, and we'll do our code in the backend side, and it will not affect the functionality of that that project.
No, it won't. That is a magic. That's what I'm telling. Whatever the code you already have, I'll just reuse the code, and I'll be on top of your code layer. I'll put one more layer called a services layer that will interact with your database objects, okay, to do business logic for me. That's all. In that way, I can expose my truck details.
Harish, I have heard some scenarios where projects from servlet JSPs are migrated to Spring Boot. So is this the same kind of scenario that we are adding web services? So we'll add one more layer of service there, or we need to change complete application for that, right?
Well, there are multiple ways to do that. Okay, that depends. So let's say if I want to add a service, one more like if I want to implement SOA architecture on top of the existing current application which is in Spring, I don't have to go to Spring Boot. Okay, I'll speak about Spring Boot advantages later, but right now let's try to understand SOA. I don't have to go to boot. There are some existing frameworks which can be directly integrated with Spring, normal Spring, not Spring Boot, and which will give me the services which I've been talking about without even moving to any new technology.
Okay, Harish.
So the advantages of boot is there. I'll speak about that later, but let's try to focus on one point at a time. Let's try to focus on current problem. No, any questions on that, guys?
Harish, is it something related to SOAP?
SOA is a general architectural style. There are multiple ways of implementation. Yes, SOAP is one of the way. We'll speak about that. Yes, REST service is one of the way. We'll speak about that. And yes, microservices is another way. We'll speak about that. And yes, we can use the message queues as well. And I'll speak about that as well. But it's
sure.
What I'm worried about is the understanding of SOA. We'll come to implementations.
Okay.
So everybody clear with SOA concept, guys? So everybody is clear with what kind of problem are we trying to solve with SOA?
Yes.
Exceptional. Nice. That's really good, guys. Okay. Now I'll try to explain some information about SOA. Okay. Advantages and what are the principles it has to be, and how a service layer, basically how a SOA architecture look like. Okay. Before going there, how many of you guys worked with production ready applications?
Okay. I worked with the Spring Boot.
I mean, like, did you work with in the real time?
Not much, because I was building the REST.
So was that application deployed in production?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Then that is production ready. That's good. So
yeah.
I just wanted to show, if I show the architecture, because I'll be showing about hardware, the implementation and everything. So I just wanted to know how many of you guys can understand that really. Okay, moving forward to our presentation. If you guys can see my screen, please tell me yes, no.
Yes, sir. Yes, yes.
Okay. Whatever I'm showing here, that is a SOA architecture, right? Let me explain in this detail. So whatever we are seeing here, if you want to deploy your application, you need hardware. Hardware is nothing but a PC. It can be anything. So basically, if you speak about some organization level, let's say if we speak about Amazon, they have the AWS thing, that is cloud, that is completely different. Even though cloud, group of computer form a cloud, right? Group of servers form a cloud. That's all. There is nothing much definition. Anyway, it's again computer. It's again server, right? So that is hardware, and we need network, right? And we need some storage space, the TB, MB, GB, whatever you're speaking, right? Hypervisor. So that is where we spin up our Tomcat servers, the production servers, and everything. Okay, that's where we need. And of course, to run an application, we need an operating system. It can be Linux, it can be Windows, it can be Mac, but basically it will be in the Linux, guys, or Unix, the flavor, Unix flavor. Now, so we need to manage. There will be a runtime environment which will be managed, and whenever you deploy a application, there will be maintenance going on always. That means they will do some of the load balancing stuff and everything, all those things. And I'm speaking about application layer, guys. Again, application server. So in our case, it's Tomcat, because we are using Tomcat for our deployment, and the actual application. So if we speak about our application, it's a truck fleet, and there comes the services without touching our application. Okay, now it's just a top level layer on top of our application, but we will be using the same code. Okay, that is a simple example of SOA architecture. It will be better understood if we implement it. If we implement it in our local machine, we'll do that. We'll do that in some time. Okay. Now, what is SOA architecture? What is a need? We already saw that, and let's go in detail about service-oriented architecture. Right. It is just a style where how you are going to build your applications. That's all. It's a software design pattern again. Software design, how you are going to build your application. Now, what is the main use of SOA? So just to provide service to service communication, right? So what are services? It's just independent components which are exposed for other applications to communicate with our application. So any questions on that, guys? Okay, let me go to next slide. So we spoke about web services already. So whatever the cloud symbol which we are seeing, let's assume there is a web service and it has been deployed somewhere. Let it be in cloud. Okay, and there are multiple applications around that. I don't know about the implementation. I don't care about the implementation as well. I mean, like in which language, on what platform, and how it implemented. I don't know about anything. What I will do is a PHP application. My PHP application will communicate with that, and I'll find out. I mean, like I'll find out whether I'm in a position to communicate with it or not. So that means if PHP is able to communicate perfectly, that's fine. Similarly, .NET application should be able to communicate. Similarly, Java application should be able to communicate. So it's a symbolic representation that it should be platform independent, system independent, and language independent. Any questions on that, guys? We will speak about the functionalities. Of course, when I'm consuming a service, I need to know what kind of service it is and how I'm consuming. I need to understand. There will be a contract. We'll speak about that. So if you have any questions, please ask me now. Right. If you don't have any questions, moving forward. So what are the principles of SOA? So if you're developing a service, there are some principles which you need to follow. First, standardized service contract. Okay, guys, this is not the contract what we make with a client. Let's say, just now I spoke about our truck management application, right? If I want to sell my truck details in other website, I'll make a contract, right, for money. I'm not speaking about that contract. There exists a contract between service to service. That means it is not in related to money. It is related to the data what we are dealing with. Okay. Okay. It is like I have to if I'm exposing a service, I have to describe what I'm doing. Okay. I need to provide a description so that they will implement their consuming functionality based on that. So whenever there is a change, I always have to respond them. I'll always have to send them the changes. Otherwise, their side application will break. They may not be able to consume our service. So any questions on that, guys? On the contract part?
No, Harish.
Cool. Now let's talk about loose coupling. This is a general loose coupling which we have been speaking about a long time. Okay, it's the same loose coupling, less dependency on other services. Okay, it should be independently consumable. Again, let's talk about one scenario. Let's say there are 10 services and all the services are independently consumable. All the services are decoupled, which means they achieve the loose coupling principle. Okay, they are following the loose coupling principle. So at one point of time, a developer like me did some mistake and one service is not coming up, but I'm able to run the business with the remaining 9 services. There is a fault tolerance in only one service. So that is one of the advantage with the loose coupling. Did you guys understood, or did I went too fast? Okay, example again. If we speak about, let's say, Amazon. Okay, Amazon is a good example. If we think about Amazon website as a behind the screens as a web service implementation, so our website is consuming, the front end is consuming our services and doing the business. I mean, like business in the sense we are able to place orders and we are able to get the details. Let's say there is a department which is called a sports department, and there is a service for that department. Okay, sports department service, and that went down. I'm not able to respond, but that is not stopping the entire business. Okay, I'm still able to go there and find let's say clothes or shoe or gadgets. I can find everything and I can place order. So with loose coupling, this is possible because there exists no dependency with another service for this service. So clear with that, guys? And this will be we will speak about this in later point of time a lot. Okay, the better way of implementing this, the loose coupling. So any other questions? Sorry, any questions first? Okay, next let's speak about service abstraction. So I'm assuming everybody is familiar with the concept of abstraction in Java. That means we are hiding the internal implementation and just giving what is required for an end user so that he can consume and use our functionalities. We are not going to expose how we internally implementing all these things, right? The logic. That is service abstraction. It's a general concept again, guys. Abstraction is a general concept in Java. Not only in Java, any programming language. Now, I'm assuming we don't have any questions on that because we might have heard 1,000 times about abstraction. Now let's go into service reusability. What does that mean? So as if you are a developer, you don't want to write duplicate code, right? Do you? So what we'll do, if there is something already functionality available, all you have to do is just plug in that functionality, use that functionality instead of writing your own, and make sure that everything is working fine. That's all. So same concept goes here. So if there is something already existing, why do I have to do that? So when you are building your web services, make sure that these services are reusable. So that's all it's about reusability. Any questions on that, guys? Cool. Now let's speak about service statelessness. Okay, what is stateful first? So we spoke about, I guess it's Akshay who was speaking about REST service. Okay, so I'm assuming you know about stateful and statelessness.
Yes, it is. Basically, generally stateless means when send the request from like client to server. Generally, our server does not like store any state of the client. That's why it is called basically stateless, and our REST is stateless because it uses STD protocol, which is stateless. So it is generally stateless.
Perfect,
Uh,
guys.
state-
So
Stateful
that's
means it will
exactly
be
statelessness means. So let's talk about this application which we just developed. Okay, if you remember correctly, I was storing the session details, right? I was able to retrieve the session details. That means my application is dependent on the session, right? I'm storing some, my server is storing some information. Our Java code is storing some information regarding the client. So every time when there is a request, I am validating with that if it is a user whoever is authorized or not. So that is stateful. So when it comes to services, so when you are implementing services, you need to make sure that your server should not be storing any information regarding the client. So for your server, every time when a request comes, it is a brand new request. So it doesn't store the state of the previous request. You don't, basically your service should not store anything. So any questions on that, guys? Okay, let's come to discoverability. This is a concept, something related to UDDI. It will be better understood if I explain UDDI. But anyway, I'll try to give an example here. So when you develop your service and if you deploy it somewhere, okay, it should be discoverable by other applications to use it. Which means if you cannot find, let's say, I have service A which I deployed in some location, and I have service B which is dependent on service A. I mean, which wants to consume service A for its services to get some data, but I'm not able to discover that. I don't know where you deployed. You're not providing me any information. So that is not the case here. So whenever you do some, whenever you try to create a service, it should be discoverable. I'll talk about the UDDI later. It's so any questions on that? Okay, moving forward to service composability. I would tell like breaking the multiple problems, okay, or sorry, breaking the big problem, okay, into a chunk pieces, means independent problems, and we can solve the big problem. Okay, that is called as service. So your service should not address all the problems at a time, just one at a time. That is composability. So any questions on that? Okay, next one, service interoperability. Service interoperability. So what does that mean? That means your service should follow some standards so that the subscribers can consume your services easily. Okay, so let's say something like should follow some XML standards and should be communicated over HTTP. So these are the standards. It's like principles, and that's all. That is about interoperability. So it's like it's more like it will be used for the diverse subscribers. That's all. So any questions on that, guys? Okay, moving forward. So we already spoke about the example. Again, I'll try to give an example. Okay, this is a website selling gadgets, online website. You can think this as of amazon.in. Okay, I didn't segregate much because it's a very vast application, and so it's hard to represent in one example here. Let's consider only 4 services for now. First one is ordering service to order your gadgets, and then the second one is checkout service. Okay, and then the inventory service. Okay, let me come in order, guys. I'm going all over place. First, inventory service. Inventory service is something like search service. Okay, to search your gadgets. Let's say if I want to book a search for a watch, maybe Fossil. So my inventory service come into play and will provide me the watch details. Next, I liked it. Now what I want to do? Add cart and check out. Right. Now at that point of time when I'm checking out, my checkout service will come into play and it will take the gadget information. Okay, and I will be able to go to billing and then pay my bills. Next, once it is done, so there will be uh, a tracking service, right? So which I need to track my order. So this is the service architecture, guys. just an example, that's all. I didn't cover much of the parts here because there will be multiple services, not only one. So some hundreds of, at least thousands of services in Amazon. So any questions on that? Okay, next slide. What are the components in SOA? So almost we discussed everything here, guys. I'll go one by one. Okay. So under SOA, we have application front end. Basically, it can be anything. I mentioned as application front end. So it can be another service, which is a consumer. Okay, our service consumer. Next, second one is actual service. If we speak about service, our whatever we are going to implement in our truck, that is the services. And next, service repository. That is a place where we are going to store our services. I mean, where we are going to deploy our services and register our services. Okay. And service bus, somebody told about MQ protocol. So we'll speak about that when we come there. Service bus is a different concept again. We'll speak about that. And now coming to services, it has a contract. I discussed about contract. It's like an agreement between two parties, one more service and this service, how it has to behave and what kind of components it is exposing, right? What kind of data it can expect. So that is a contract. And now the actual interface. The interface is nothing but, so okay, what is interface? Whatever you are interfacing with, whatever you are using for communication, that is interface. For example, API, application programming interface, it is also called as interface. UI, user interface. Okay, that is interface. So how you are interacting with, what is the way you are interacting with, that is the interface. Now the actual implementation. So these are the components, guys. So any questions on that? I guess I have covered almost everything. That's why I went a little bit fast here. So any questions, any concerns, or any suggestions? Okay. So if no questions, before going forward, there are only a couple of slides. After that, we'll jump into the actual implementation, or maybe at least we'll speak about the difference between web services, what we are going to implement. But I would like to give you guys a 15 minutes break, and we'll come back and we'll join again, and we'll continue our discussion on SOA. Sounds good?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Welcome back, guys. So if everybody is back at your desk, maybe we can continue. Or you guys want some more time?
Yeah. Hi.
Okay. So if everybody is clear with the concept of what are the components involved in SOA, we can proceed further. Okay. Some of the common terminologies which we will be using throughout our course, basically, will be service provider. So service provider is somebody who will provide the service. For example, in the previous example we saw in Expedia, so we were able to see flights from Air Canada, WestJet, right? These are service providers. They are providing the service. And what kind of service is it? It's a flight service. Okay. Now, service consumer. Again, the same example. Expedia, in this particular scenario, it is a consumer, right? UDDI, we'll speak about that. Now, it is just like a registry. Okay. In a layman terminology, it is like a phone book. So what will phone book have? It will have all the information related to the person's contact details, right? So whenever you require, you can refer to the appropriate person and you can find their phone number. Similarly, here also UDDI is same. Okay, let me define UDDI. So it stands for Universal Description, Discovery and Integration. So what exactly it is? It is a specification. Basically, it will be in the form of XML specification for distributed registry of web services. So whenever you develop your web service, we may register in our UDDI, so which means it will be available for all the consumers when they search in their UDDI. Right. Any questions on that, guys? Cool. Next, endpoint. Remember this terminology, guys. We'll be using a lot. Endpoint is nothing but it's just like an API. So in our web applications, we saw the URL, right? But if I click on a URL, it will open a web page. But in web services, to communicate with a service, we need a web endpoint. That means it is access to your service somewhere deployed in some server and where the code is running. Okay, it is access to the code and execute and give you back the details what you're looking for, right? And protocol. So the protocol, basically you can think of the messaging protocol or and the communication protocol. For example, HTTP, there is a communication protocol. Okay, and the messaging protocol, let's come to SOAP, SOAP. I'll talk about that, but there is an example for message protocol. Okay, and the message format, in what format we are responding, we are expecting the message. It can be JSON, it can be XML, it can be HTML, it can be plain text, or sometimes it can be images as well. So any questions on that, guys? Okay, next slide. A typical SOA model is just an example. Okay, so let's consider again in the previous example. Let's consider Air Canada. Okay, that is our service provider, right? And consider Expedia service requester. Okay, so first what our Air Canada guys will do, they will develop their web services and they will register it in UDDI. It is specifically for SOAP services, guys. I'll speak about SOAP in next 2 minutes, but just we're trying to understand the concept of UDDI, the service provider and the service requester. So now whenever a service requester needs some information, so first it will look up in the UDDI to get the service details. Then it will contact service provider and service provider will respond. Okay, here I mentioned everything in Jstl format and SOAP format. I'll speak about that. But this is, I wanted you guys to understand the communication way, how they are communicating, how it will work. So any questions on that, guys? Okay, so let's discuss before going into Spring Boot. Okay, let's discuss SOAP and REST, and we'll see the differences, and we'll start implementing REST services because SOAP is not involved in our syllabus, and it will take so much of time if we have to implement. Okay, but it is necessary to know the differences between a SOAP web service and a REST web service typically. Right. Let me open my notepad. So I heard Shahan Ahmad was telling about SOAP. Can you please elaborate SOAP?
Yeah, basically SOAP is the web service which is developed using some restriction with the architectural style. I mean, transport style.
Okay.
And it uses some format like SOAP envelope and SOAP header and SOAP body.
Okay.
So this is the format we need to send to the service providers in the SOAP. And
those are good points.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan. Everything, whatever you told, that is perfectly fine with the SOAP. I mean, that's correct formation of SOAP. Okay, let me put it this way. Now, SOAP is also a web service, right? So prior to that, we used to communicate with RPCs. So there was some issue with RPC. Basically, when it comes to securities, you need to disable your firewalls to communicate using RPCs. So that is not recommended, right? So whenever there is a security issue, basically when you are dealing with data, financial or customer related data, so our service providers, they won't take risk. So now, to overcome that, people came up with different kinds of services. Basically, everything which communicates over HTTP was the easiest solution. Why? We don't have to open our firewalls. All we need is a browser, right, to communicate over HTTP. It's just a hypertext transfer protocol. And now there are various ways of messaging formats. So one among them is SOAP. But what is SOAP? SOAP stands for Simple Object Access Protocol. So what is SOAP? It is a message format, basically. Okay, Simple Object Access Protocol. Like Shahan told, we have a SOAP header, SOAP envelope, and SOAP body. So whenever we need to communicate, we need to use this specific format. Sorry, my bad, there is a mistake. Okay, we need to use this specific format. Okay, now let's quickly see what is WSDL. So when we are building SOAP services, okay, either you can follow top-down approach or bottom-up approach. So what does that mean? First, you can build a WSDL and generate the required classes based on your WSDL. Let's say if we speak about a Java implementation of a SOAP, so you can build a WSDL and you can generate this related classes. Okay, the related classes in the sense there will be a model classes like just the beans which we discussed in Spring. Okay, the messages, how it has to be, those classes can be generated. Other way, you can build your classes, you can write the code, and you can generate the WSDL. That is another way. We can do both the ways, and the technology which we use is JAX-WS, basically JAX-WS. Okay, and WSDL stands for Web Services Description Language. Okay, what do I have in WSDL? Basically, as it specifies Web Services Description Language, it is a complete description of your web service. So what it will do, what kind of endpoints it has, what kind of operations it has. So if it in case of operations, so what is a message format? I mean, like what is a request, what is a response? Okay, and it has XSDs, XML schemas. Again, if I remember correctly, we discussed about XML as well. What is XSD? What is XML? Right? So similarly, in WSDL, we have everything. Okay, here the communication or the how we will communicate, it is over HTTP, and we need to send a SOAP message. And at the other end, the service provider end, who will access? Okay, there will be methods. So sorry, my bad. There will be operations. We will deal with operations in SOAP. Okay, just remember, I'll show what is operation and what I've been speaking about. Okay, there are some drawbacks with SOAP. That is, it's because of its fixed nature, fixed message format, right? I cannot change the message format in whatever the need I have. Doesn't matter, my needs doesn't care. So I'll provide you in the same format, you have to use in the same format. Okay, that is SOAP format. I'll show everything, okay, in 2 minutes, but let's discuss about SOAP completely. No, that is one of the problem, that is a major problem. Okay, it's not feasible to change my message formats in the needs of a customer. I have to always follow the strict format, right? Who maintains this? Who maintains SOAP? W3C, again the same organization. So in WSDL you can see endpoint also. We discussed about endpoint. What is endpoint? Okay, we discussed about endpoint. We can find the endpoint also. We can find the operation related information. Okay, we have schemas, basically all the information related for my XML schema, XSDs, and everything will be in my WSDL. Now let's quickly see what is WSDL. So I'm going to show you a general WSDL, okay, which is deployed over which we can access over Google. Let's see. Let me open Google. Something called currency converter. Currency converter Jstl, WSDL. Okay. So here you go, guys. I have these kind of Jstls. So if you put question mark Jstl, let's say like that. Ah, crap, something happened. WSDL. Ah, something wrong. HTTPS. Anyway, I'll show it in the SOAP. I'm supposed to have a project here. Okay, just a minute, guys. Let me find the appropriate URL. Okay, my Google is not working. Why is it going to Yahoo? Okay, so this is Jstl. Whatever I was trying, putting a question mark on WSDL, it'll give me the complete information about Jstl. But if we look at it like this, we don't understand anything. Let me go and take and paste it in SOAP UI. Don't worry about SOAP UI. We are not going to do anything in the SOAP UI. It's just a interface for us to deal with the services, to communicate with the services, to read services. Wow, what am I doing? Jstl exchange rate. Okay, I placed in the wrong place. Now this is what I have been speaking about. So I have so many methods here, right? Let's open this. This is a request for this method, for this particular method, convert to euro method, right? So this is my request format, and whatever Shahan told regarding this SOAP envelope, header, body, so I have everything here. This is a fixed format. I cannot change the format in whatever the way I want. Okay, it won't accept. So as I was speaking about multiple operations, right? I mean, like converting to euro is one operation. Convert to foreign. Similarly, there are too many get exchange rates, get rates by date XML. This is one operation. So basically, when we speak about SOAP services, we deal with operations. Okay. Any questions on that, guys? Again, this is out of scope for our this session. What we are dealing with the Spring Boot microservices. Okay. So I'm just wanted to give what are the different ways of development of web services are available right now. So one among them is SOAP. Okay, the other one is we'll talk about it sometime. So if you have any questions, please ask me. Okay, now forget about this. We don't need this SOAP UI. We'll not be using SOAP UI anymore, right? So as I told, you can find all the service related information here, like schema, namespaces, type, okay, complex type, something, all the information related to your request, response, everything, and even endpoint as well. I mean, like endpoint is where it deployed and how you can access it. That's the endpoint. So you can see that here there is a service and there is an endpoint here. The location one is this one. This is the one, and the second one is the same here. Gamma systems, exchange rates. So these are the endpoints. So any questions on that? Okay. If no questions, then moving forward to REST services. But before moving forward, let's find out some of the disadvantages. I told I cannot change the message format. Okay, that is another disadvantage. And any other disadvantages? I don't think there are many other disadvantages apart from this messaging format. And also, it is more secure because it comes with web security. Okay, Java web security, that's JAX WS web security. along with HTTPS. Along with HTTPS, web security will be available. Again, guys, as we saw the request format, it is predefined. It is based on the XML, based on the XML which we defined in our schema. Okay, the XML schema definition and XML, the information of XML, basically the information what we are going to communicate. Okay, the request and response. It is predefined. We cannot change it. I'm repeating that again. It is predefined. We cannot change it. Now, coming to security. It comes with both. You can deploy over HTTPS. That means the communication protocol can be changed to HTTPS, and we can use web security as well. So this is one of the advantage. Okay, if you remember header, SOAP header, let me go back again. If you want to authenticate, you can provide the information in the header. Okay, the authentication details. We will see that authentication or authorization later. So any questions on that? So if no questions, we can quickly discuss REST. REST. So I heard some of our folks worked on REST. Okay, can somebody define REST in a single liner, please?
Yes, basically REST stands for Representational Stress Transfer. It is an architectural design which is used to building services because it is lightweight, scalable, and maintenance also easy.
Okay. Okay,
It
cool.
is an architectural design.
Okay, that's perfect. It's an architectural style. It is an architectural style. That's a good point. Thanks, Akshay.
It uses HTTP protocol.
Yeah,
It
communicate
uses
over
HTTP
HTTP.
protocol to send the data from client to server.
So it's basically communication protocol is HTTP.
Also, it stores the data in different format like XML,
Perfect. Different format supported. Different format of messages supported. Perfect. Okay. Now let me define in this way.
the operations like fetching the data, modifying the data.
Yeah, we can do the operations. I'll speak about that. Thank you. Those are the good points actually. Right. Let me define in this way. So what we have seen, what are the drawbacks in SOAP? Now let's discuss REST. Okay, REST is stands for representational state transfer. Again, it is not a message format, guys. It is an architectural style on which we are going to build a service. Okay, it is also part of SOA. Cool. It's also part of SOA. On top of SOA, we are going to use this architectural style to build our services. And what exactly is this architectural style? Let's review. It is simple. See, representational state transfer. Okay, what does that mean? Can somebody define that? REPRE. Akshay, can you define that, please? Okay, simple question again. Forget about definition. How many of you guys know Ajax? Okay, so some people may define.
Yeah, basically in Ajax.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, basically in Ajax we don't wait for the acknowledgement. I mean, it is an asynchronous operation.
Perfect.
Means
That's what I
if
was.
I want to send the request, I won't wait. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. If I want to send the request, I'll send other side. That is the asynchronous response.
Okay.
So that is the what Ajax do.
Perfect. Let me put it in this way. Okay. Ajax is something like asynchronously removes the communication between server and client. That's all. So there is a slight difference between REST and Ajax. Some people will think it's also Ajax. No, it's not. So what I'm doing here, I'm transferring the state. I'm transferring the state of a representation of an entity to the client. Okay. So what does it mean? So when we deal with REST services, so everything for us is an entity. For example, in our case, in the truck, okay, in the truck management system, let's speak about entity. So if I represent a service, let's say um, a truck service, so it's going to deal with truck such service. It's going to deal with trucks. The truck is an entity there. So any questions on that, guys? So whatever the operations we are going to do, it will be with the entities, or you can, okay, in other words, you can specify it as a resource. Okay, in other words, you can specify it as a resource. So in our case, truck is a resource for us. We are going to deal with resources in REST. So any questions on that statement or any modifications, suggestions? So if no questions, I'll explain what are functions of this, how we have to implement this architectural style. Okay, right. So during 2000s, a guy named Ry Fidling, I forgot his name. So Ry Fidling, he's the one who invented this web APIs, the representational state transfer web APIs. According to him, so if we follow all the specifications, what is specified, so that makes a REST service. Basically, every REST service should come up with a hypertext. If we again, if we follow his standards, hate OS standards, okay, we'll speak about that as well. But in general, in our day-to-day activities, what we are doing right now as a software developer, so we don't actually really follow all the architectural state patterns. I mean, like all the principles. So it is a debatable topic again. Okay, some people will tell, yes, it is a representational state transfer. Okay, as per the statement, I am doing whatever you are required asked for. So yes, this is an if I communicate. Okay, somebody went out and came. If you communicate over HTTP, so I can simply tell it as REST because I am completely taking use of the HTTP methods. So I'll be doing CURD operations using HTTP methods. Again, it is a debatable topic, guys. Okay, so to communicate, okay, we have, okay, not we, basically REST service will take full advantage of HTTP. What does that mean? To do some kind of logic, let's say to insert, to update, to retrieve, to delete, it's going to take full advantage of HTTP methods. If you remember correctly, guys, when we are implementing servlets, for every servlet we have to define a method, either it is a get method or a post method, right? But we haven't seen put, we haven't seen delete, right? We haven't seen patch. We will speak about that, but just an example. So those belongs to HTTP, not, it does not belongs to REST services. Clear on that concept, guys? Any questions on that? Again, I'm repeating, those methods belongs to HTTP, not REST. REST, what it will do, it will just take full advantage of that methods and it will implement the CURD operations like insertion, deletion, basically to define CURD, C for create, R for retrieve, U for update, D for delete. So REST will just use it. It's not, these methods are not part of REST. So any questions on that statement? Okay, right. Now let's see some of the constraints in this style. What we need to do. First, it should be uniform interface. Next, We already discussed about stateless. Again, I'm not repeating anything. It should be stateless. Okay. Again, we deal with Akshay told it's a client server architecture again, right? I will be deploying in server, and whoever is interacting with me will be considered as a client. It doesn't matter for me. That's one of the constraints for REST. Now, it can be cacheable. What does that mean? How many of you guys know cookies and caching in your browser?
Yes, Harish.
Cool.
Basically, we are caching the some information like users, suppose. So what we have used the session, HTTP session in our application.
Yes.
So we can use that in the caching data of the browser. So we don't need to send again and again, because we are sending some data again and again. We can store it in the cache or in the cookies as well.
Perfect. So guys, whenever I speak about client server, server will not have any control over client. So caching is something, the cookies and everything what we are speaking, it is related to client. So REST services can be cacheable, whereas SOAP cannot be cacheable. Okay. Next statement. Yeah, these are the constraints, okay, which we need to follow. Are impositions, basically. Obviously, when you are implementing a REST service, it comes with it. You don't have to specifically follow everything here. It automatically comes with it. Next, can I communicate over HTTPS? Yes, you can communicate over HTTPS, and that is the only way of security you can provide, not the web security. But there are other ways, that is authentication and authorization. By using username, password, you can provide in the headers again. We will be having a header for every request, so we can pass our username and password and authenticate it, okay, before giving access to any method, like a get method or a post method or a put method. I can use JWT tokens as well. We will see that in detail when we implement them. Okay. Now, any questions on the rest, guys? So, if you guys don't have any questions, let me write the methods here. What we will be using, what is available in REST, basically. Get, post, put, patch. There is options. Excuse me. There is head. Did I write delete? No, there is delete. D-E-L-E-T. Delete. Okay. Get is to get a resource from the server. Okay. Entity. Post is to create a new entity in the server, or post is to create a new resource. Okay, let me use the word resource. Okay, post is to create a new resource in the server. Put is to update the existing entity. It means completely replace that. Okay. Now patch, I may want to my resource will have a bunch of details, but I don't want to update everything. I want to update only 2 or 3 fields at the point of time. I can go with the patch. Now options used to basically it supports, okay, it will provide you what kind of operations are supported in this service. I mean what kind of operations like get, put, post. So those information will be provided by using these options. Now what do I have head for is to basically we will be setting the header information in the head used to get the header information. Okay. And delete, to delete a resource from the server. So any questions on that, guys? Because we will be dealing with these methods in detail when we go for coding. Cool. No questions. Now again, we cannot provide WS security, that is web services security. Instead, we have different securities, that is over HTTPS, and I can use a username and password, right? At the same time, I can use a JWT token. I can use it for single sign-on purpose. These are the concepts which we will discuss in later. I mean, in detail, later point of time when we go for the coding. Now, if you guys have doesn't have any questions, we'll quickly see what benefits we will get out of Spring Boot. So any questions on any topics, any of the topics? So web services, REST, SOAP, Anything? Okay, cool. Let me go to our PPT again. Let's come here. Okay. So what is Spring Boot? First of all, to understand Spring Boot, let's go back to our Spring implementation, the project which we implemented, and let's note down some of the drawbacks or some of the challenges which you faced, okay, while developing the application. Right, let me face that. Let me write that down here. Can you guys think of some of the challenges which you faced? So I'll start with that. Yesterday, we converted a Spring application into Maven, right? So at that point of time, it is a headache for us to maintain and find the compatible jar types individually and add it to our dependencies. So if you look at our pom.xml file, it is very huge. It has a huge dependency list. It took almost an hour for me to identify all the list. This is not the one. Let me find the appropriate one, guys. Let it load. Yeah. Let's see this. So from here onwards, I have a huge list. I need to find compatible versions every time. Whenever I add a new jar file, whenever I add a new dependency, I need to find a compatible version. So it takes some time for us to find, right? So I thought it will be easier if I had a dependency management, proper dependency management tool. Okay, like not exactly a tool. If we can do a proper dependency management by grouping all these jar files, let's say my core, okay, we can group into core module and get all the core related jar files. And similarly, Hibernate, I can group all the Hibernate related jar files into one group and I can get it. So it will be better, I thought. Okay, we'll see that. So dependency management is problem. Right. Now, what other problems did we face? Anybody?
Every time we go for like, if you want to use some server like Tomcat, you have to do it explicitly configure.
Okay. So we are using an external server. Right. Next. Anything else, guys?
Also, if you're looking from Spring Boot, in Spring we have also lots of like boilerplate code problem. We have maintained view result bar, and we have maintained like we model and view all those things explicitly.
So writing boilerplate,
And we have to go for so DAO.
boilerplate code again. Yeah, boilerplate, everything covers. Okay, let me take an example here. Okay, going back to our application again, guys. Let me take an example. Here, if I go to our configuration, so I created a view resolver, and we created a data source, and we created the JDBC template object. So we can think in this way. For every application what you are going to create, you need all these. I mean, like, let's assume we are going to create a web application only, and it is speaking with some of the database, whatever the database, it doesn't matter, right? So at certain point of time, you may end up creating this configuration again, creating these bean files again. So it will be better if my framework provides this internally. All I have to do is just configure or plug my configuration details, like what kind of view I want and what kind of database connectivity I wanted. So if I provide that to my database, to my framework, if my framework provides the beans for me, it'll be easy, right? Instead of writing this configuration, right? This is one of the problem which we faced. This is what boilerplate code our Akshay was speaking about. but it's just an example. There are so many. So any other problems, guys? It took some time for me to get the production ready code, right? Because of all these configurations, right? Because of all writing these configurations and everything. So took some time. Now let's see, okay, the Spring Boot, how it is going to resolve these problems and what else it provide. Now, as I mentioned here, so these are all the these are all I can say these are all features of Spring, what it provides, Spring Boot. Okay, let's start with simply with Spring Boot starters. What exactly Spring Boot starters? So I was speaking about the pom.xml file that maintaining the dependency explicitly. So the exact same problem the starters will solve here, right? Grouping the dependencies together. If I need a web, all I need is just import Spring Web Starter. That's all. It'll get all the dependencies related to that. If I need JPA, I need to get JPA, and it will get all the related information. If I need a database like JDBC, Spring Data, that's all. It'll provide me all the information, all the jar files. It will be bundled in that. So those are starters, right? Now I was speaking about the boilerplate code. Okay, so let's see that. Now boot auto configuration. This is the one. So what it will do is, if you add MySQL driver. So it might assume that you need JDBC template. I mean the connection. So what it will do is it will auto configure it for you. You don't have to do any configuration. All you have to do is just pass your parameters and get that configured bean and use it. Okay. Next, let's come to Accutator. What is Accutator? So we have been speaking about IOC. Is that an example, guys? It is one of the many features of Accutator. I'm just trying to give an example. So we have been speaking about IOC container, right? So we don't know how it creates beans, right? Where it creates. So we can get the bean information with Accutator. Not only that, we can get the production grade details. That means we can get our performance of our application, the health check of our application, right? We can get the matrices, we can get the heap dump, we can get the thread dump. So basically it provides the monitoring, a way to monitor our application. I can put it this way. Accutator provides a way to monitor our application, right? Now again, the test, it's one of the I didn't implement test in Spring, guys, because I just wanted to show you how test works in Spring Boot directly. So it has a separate feature. All you need is you can configure any random port, and with serverless you can go and directly test your application. That is JUnit test cases. And we have CLI, command line interface. So what is that actually? How many of you guys know about Groovy? Groovy. Groovy. It's also a programming language, guys.
Just heard the name Groovy, Groovy and Grains.
So basically this CLI is basically for Groovy. You can develop our REST services or applications using Groovy, and you can compile in our Spring Boot just like that by using the Spring Boot features. So both these Spring Boot and Groovy complement each other to develop their features. But Groovy, what actually is Groovy? It's just a programming language. Underlying there will be a JRE which is running. Again, it'll run on JRE. JRE is Java runtime environment, guys. Okay, it'll take full use of the JRE again. So these are the features, and I didn't tell there is a concept called, everybody will tell, Spring is opinion oriented, right? Ever heard about the term, guys? Spring is opinion oriented by any chance? Okay, let me tell you that it has an opinion on everything what you are going to add in the dependencies. Okay, what does that mean? What do I mean by that statement? Right, it decides, okay, Spring Boot decides based on the dependency which you add, what else you need. So it will automatically create it for you. Okay, this is something related to auto configuration which we speak, but apart from that, so it has an opinion over everything what you need to deploy to deliver the production ready grade web service. Let me give an example. Okay, it will be easy understood if I give an example. Okay, uh, let's take, if you include, okay, in your starter the JPA, Java Persistent API, like spring-jpa-starter, there will be a Maven dependency. If you include that in your dependency, right, Spring will assume you are going to work with a database, so it will automatically configure H2 database, that is a in-memory database, okay, and a Hibernate entity manager for you. You don't have to do that. It will automatically configure everything for you. All you have to do is just use the appropriate bean names, like JDBC template, for example, for MySQL. Similarly, here there will be bean names like repositories. All you have to do is make use of the repository. That's all. So did you guys understood that concept?
Yes,
Yes.
it is.
Cool. So if you guys don't have any questions, it's our time to start our basic Spring Boot application. It's our time to create very basic Spring Boot application, right? Let's see how we can create, I mean, what are the different ways of creating Spring Boot application? First, I'll show you, it's one of the way, I'll show you the basic way, right? If you go to, let me close everything. I don't want this. I don't want this. I don't want this. I want this. Okay, let me ping you this. Chart. Right, that is a website, guys. You can use the website to create a Spring Boot for you, Spring Boot application for you. Okay, it has multiple options like you are seeing on my screen. You can select either Groovy, Kotlin, Java, Gradle, Maven, and Spring Boot versions and dependencies. I'll go through one by one, okay, quickly. But you may ask, why can't I do with my IDE? Because I'm able to create a dynamic web project. I'm able to create normal static static Java project using Eclipse IDE. I cannot do that. Why? Because it doesn't support, it doesn't have the feature. For that purpose, we have one more IDE. I'll show you what exactly is that. Okay, but for now, let's let's use this Spring start.spring.io to create our application. Okay, let's do. Right, guys. So, we are not going to create the truck right now. Okay, we'll do that later. Since it is just only how to create a Spring Boot application using this start.spring.io. So let's create a demo application. Again, group. So what is group, guys? I told when we spoke about Maven. Can somebody
It's
define group?
basically the organization name, you can say.
Yeah, in the reverse order, simply. For now, let's say I'll give Harish, my name. You can give any name, guys. I'm giving Harish. And the artifact. Can somebody tell me what is artifact?
It is basically the project name, whatever the project you have to
Yeah, that's good.
this
So
implement.
I would say demo project, something like that. Now the name comes automatically. Description, if you want to describe about this project, it will come as a description in the tag of pom.xml. You can describe the project here. I will just tell demo project. Okay, before going here, I selected Maven. Similarly, if you are familiar or if your projects are running on Gradle, you can take that. It is also similar kind of tool. It also has the same kind of functionality. And now we are dealing with Java, so I'm going with Java, right? Spring Boot. This is a basically version, Spring Boot version. So the latest is 2.4.x. You don't have to go 2.4.1 and everything because it's in the snapshot version. So I'll go 2.4.0 or maybe downgrade version 2.3.7 or 3.6. It's up to you. So I'm going 2.4.0, right? And what is a packaging type, right? Okay, by default Spring Boot comes up with jar as their packaging type. So if you remember our first class properly, we packaged our application into a var file, that is web archive file, because we have all the web related information. Now even though if you are creating a web application, you can use var file, or you have choice to go with jar. Jar will have all the information as well. That is a feature of Spring Boot. You can include the, excuse me, you can include the views, you can include your CSS, you can include your style sheets, you can include your JS scripts, everything in the var file itself, and still it will work. So it's up to you guys. So for now I'm taking it as a jar. I'm pretty much comfortable with jar. I'm using, for this session I'm using Java 8 as our Java version. So if you guys are on 11 or 15, please feel free to use it. Now dependencies. I was speaking about the starter configuration, guys, if you remember correctly, the starters, when I open that features of Spring Boot. So you can add dependencies here. Let's say I want to develop a web application simply. Okay, again example, all I need to do is spring -web. So there is no web, Spring Web. I guess I already added here. Yeah. So that's why. Let me remove everything and pick it. Okay, now let's see. Spring Web. Okay, just read the description, you will understand, you will get a bit better picture. So with this you can build web applications including RESTful applications using Spring MVC, and there is a embedded Tomcat in it. Okay, so we need this kind. Let's go with that. Right, what else we need? Do we need any validations? For now, since it is an example, I don't need validation. So are we connecting with any database? Let's see. I'm not, since it's again it is an example, so I'm not going for any connection with database right now. Okay, but in case if you want, there is this, you can type this MySQL, you'll get MySQL database, I mean like MySQL jar file, which will help you to connect to database. The same thing, MySQL JDBC jar, which we used. Right, now how can I deal with data, the JDBC template connection and everything? Spring Data, where is Spring Data for me? That's all. You can use this Spring Data JDBC, not JPA. JPA is a different concept, guys. I'll speak about that altogether later. But Spring JDBC. Let's suppose if we are working with a different kind of database, not MySQL, so you can still check for that availability here. Check for the availability of configuration. Let's say if I'm working with Postgres, so see here, PostgreSQL. If you're working with Oracle, ORACLE, here you go. Now if you work with NoSQL database as well, we didn't speak because I didn't get chance. I will try to cover the NoSQL database part as well. Okay, when we have some time. Guys, can you hear me? Because Shahan was complaining that he can't hear.
Yes, Harish.
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yes, I can hear you.
Give me some time. I'm responding to Shahan. Okay. Okay, guys, I'm sorry that got interrupted. Okay, I was speaking about NoSQL. So if let's say if I want to add a dependency which is of type Elasticsearch, if I want to communicate with Elasticsearch, you can do that. Simply type Elasticsearch. Okay, this is also a text-based search engine. We will see if we have time. If everything goes well, I will try to cover a topic on this as well, on any kind of NoSQL database. Right, it's just to give an example what are all dependencies available here in our spring.io. Okay, the starter, in the starter way. Now all I just need is Spring Web. I didn't add anything else. In case if I want to add, you can add later as well. It's just part of, all you need to do is include it in the pom.xml. I'll show you that as well. Now let's generate this. Okay. Here, the project is ready for you guys. All you have to do is extract it and import it in your Eclipse or any of your favorite IDE. So let me cut it and boot. Extract it here.
Harish, pardon me.
Yep.
What dependency we've used? Web and
As of now, I just used web. I didn't use
that's
anything
it.
else. I'm sorry?
Okay. Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, your voice is breaking. I can't hear you. Okay. Got my demo project here. See that? Let's try to import the demo project in our Eclipse. Don't need everything here. Just close all. Guys, again, you need Maven for this because we selected Maven. Import Maven. Existing Maven projects. Next, browse. Where is my desktop? Spring Boot training projects demo. Yeah. So let's import. It will take some time because it for the first time when we import this project, here it will try to resolve the dependencies, which means it will try to download the dependencies. Okay. Now there is only one dependency, so it was too quick. That's all. Now let's review the pom.xml file. Right. If you observe properly, we got a parent. That means our project is derived from this one, right? You call this as a parent, arg.springframework.boot. That again depends, guys. If you are working on your application, if there is a multi-module application in your organization, in your company, you may use that as a parent. Okay, it's up to you. But here we are using, for this scenario, we are using Spring Boot as our parent. Okay, and the version is 2.4.0. And yesterday we reviewed almost of all these things. What is group ID, what is artifact ID, and the version, name of the project, description, again properties as well. We reviewed everything. Now let's have a look at the dependencies. Okay, I selected web, right? And I got it here. And test will be there automatically. Okay, as in the scope is test. That's all. I didn't specify anything else. So how will my Maven know that it has to include everything, right? Which is related to Spring Web MVC and everything, all the other jars core. So all those jars will be bundled in this starter file. Okay, everything will come up with this when you include. Now let's review the structure of the project. If you have a look at it, I didn't specify it as a web application, right? So that's why there is no web app anywhere, nothing. Okay, so it created a default, a class for me. So let's have a look at the class. But before that, let's see completely the architecture, the structure of the project. Okay, I have a test here, test package, which we didn't include when we tried for our application, when we created our application, right? We have a test and we have resources. So this is where you are going to maintain your resources. Say, for example, the application.properties, which is a resource for you. So you will specify all the information related to server, the instructions related to the server, the AOP, the MVC, anything related to your application, you can specify it here. I will explain, I'll try to cover most of them. Okay, let's see in later point of time. Right now, just understand we can provide. And in fact, guys, it is not only that you have to provide in application.properties. By default, it came as application.properties. You can even choose application.aml. Okay, cool. Now let's go inside and let's see what it created for us. Okay, there is a wide main. Okay, and there is some annotation, Spring Boot application, and there is something called Spring Boot.run demo application.class, and it's passing arguments. Okay, let's see. So I'm assuming at least we did some kind of Java coding, right? By using main class. So what is the need for main class, guys? A simple question.
Basically, to run our application, JVM to start our application.
Okay.
We have main
It's
method to
getting
run our
a
application.
starting point, so that's why we need main, right?
Yes.
Perfect. But we didn't have main in our web applications. Why?
It internally take basically
No.
whenever we have to go for
Okay.
application.
Let me tell you what is the difference here. So our web applications doesn't need a main. Okay. Here the main is to just to initiate the flow. That means somebody has to call a method or an object to execute, right? Correct? You have to call that method, or you have to use an appropriate object to call it. So that means here calling is very important, not the object. So in our web applications, our dispatcher servlet will do that. So it will call the controller and it will give the request handling. So we don't need that. We don't need a web main here. But here in our Spring Boot, we don't have, even though we have all those things, but it will come into later. It will come into picture later once we start this application. That means we need to create IOC there. So here for that purpose, we need a starting point. So we have main. Okay, and in the main, all we are doing is we are just passing an instruction, spring application.run. That means run the application from where, take this demo project application as an argument, start the execution from here. Okay, now what do we have here? We have @Spring Boot application. What exactly is this Spring Boot application? Again, a new annotation, right? Again, a new annotation. What kind of annotations do we have in this? So it is an annotation for, you can it is equal to @component scan, okay, which will scan from this current com.harish.demo project folder and so on. Okay, and it has also annotation for @enable auto configuration. Guys, by default in Spring Boot, @enable auto configuration is not enabled. So if you use @Spring Boot application, it will come into play. Okay, so that means you are specifying your Spring Boot application to configure some of the prerequisites, okay, automatically for you. If you want, you can override that. Okay, we'll see that in later point of time. So any questions on this? Why we need Spring Boot application and why we need main, or the project structure, or anything, or any concept which we discussed so far? So everybody is clear with the way we create a simple Spring Boot application, right? This is a simple way, guys. Of course, this is a very powerful way because you are generating the application somewhere else and you are importing the application in your IDE. Cool. If you guys don't have any questions, let's quickly go on a break and then we'll connect again. Thank you. So no doubts? Okay. Let's take a break and then we'll be back in 15 minutes, guys. Thank you. Welcome back, guys. So if everybody is back from their break, and if everybody is ready to continue on this session, so let's not wait and let's get going. Okay, cool. Now, so how can I run this application, right? If I click on this, run as, I'm showing as a Java application because we have main in it, right? But what I wanted is there any other way to run it? Like, because I need to run on a server, right? Because I declare it as a web application. I need a web application. So how can I run it on a server, right? So you can take use of the Maven commands here, right? How can I run it? Simply go run as Maven configuration. In fact, you can do in the command line as well. I'll show you that. Where is my Maven? Find my Maven. So I'll create a new browse demo project, and I will specify the goals instead of clean install. Okay, I'll specify spring hyphen boot colon run, and that's all, guys. Now your Maven will run this application for you. Let's see. So I'll name it demo boot run. That's all. Okay, let's see. I didn't write any controller. I didn't write any code. Okay, nothing. Okay, there's a build failure. So it's because of server listening on 8080. Okay, now we can change the port. Okay, before going here, I wanted you guys to know how we got a Tomcat here, how we have a server in it, because I already specified if you include any dependency, let's say for example, anything related to web, spring-web starter. So by default, it comes up with a embedded Tomcat. And of course, if you want to embed Jetty, you can exclude the embedded Tomcat and include a Jetty. But for now, we are using Tomcat for our session, so let's continue using that. Now, there is it's a complaint saying that 8080 are already in use. How can I change my port number? All you have to do is go to application.properties, and as I told, remember guys, I told you guys to use if you want to specify any configuration related to your application, you can do it in the application.properties. So let me quickly do that. Server, see, okay, anything related to server, it will start with server. There is a cheat code. If you do, see, it is hard to remember all the configuration details. So if you go to spring.io/docs, you can find this information. Okay, what are all these cheat codes and how I can configure. So now anything related, remember, anything related to server will start with server dot. And what exactly I'm changing here? It is port. And you can specify whatever port you want. Let's say if I want to run on 888.9, and that's all. Save it, run it. Spring Boot run. Okay, now let's observe the logs. So yesterday, as I explained, my Maven is doing something related to resources, something related to compiler, something related to test cases, if there is any. I don't have any, so that's why it's not running anything. Now come here, all the way down. Starting demo application using Java 1.8, because I specified Java.1. It has to run on Java.1.8, and this is my lab ID. So it is specifying that we did not specify any profile, so we are going fallbacking to the default profile, and it's starting on 8899 and starting service, starting servlet engine. I specified Tomcat is a servlet engine, right? Servlet container. That's why we are doing that. And here, this is very important, guys. did we enable or did we configure anything related to web application context? So if I remember correctly, I haven't configured anything. All I did is I just embedded the spring hyphen web hyphen starter. That's all. I didn't do I didn't do any annotation based configuration, or I didn't do any XML based configuration. So but my spring boot has a capability to, or it has the auto configuration to do that for us. So it is doing that. And everything just Tomcat started on 8899 and started demo application in 2.4 seconds. That's all. So any questions on this, guys? Okay, that is good. No questions. And we didn't specify any.
Harish,
Yes.
Harish, once again, could you please explain this embedded web application context thing?
Oh, okay. Right over here. I marked it. Right? Is that the one?
Yes.
Perfect. Right. If you remember the applications which we built using Spring, normal Spring, I
Yes.
have to enable, or I have to instruct my servlet container to enable this web application context, right? Either by using web.xml and by using the dispatcher servlet, or by using the annotations, if you remember properly.
Yes, yes.
We did that. In here, I didn't do anything. There is no code at all. All I have is @ Spring Boot application. And in my dependencies in pom.xml, I included spring hyphen web hyphen starter dot. Oh, sorry. Let me get that name proper. So I just included starter dependency. That's all. I didn't do much. So if you see this, all I did is this one. Now, from the basic concepts of Spring which we discussed, right? Features of Spring which we discussed, I told about enable auto configuration. So which means if I don't specify anything, it is also opinion oriented. So it knows what it has to do, right? It assumes default. I need all these things. So when I told it is a web, so it is initializing a web application context for me.
Okay.
Clear?
Okay.
Sure. Any other questions, guys? And there is one more log which we have to observe here. Observe this properly. So we didn't specify any context path. So what is application context path? So in normal web applications which we develop in Spring, it will come by default the name of the project. Here we didn't specify anything. Okay, we will see that how to specify in some time when we port our Spring application to Spring Boot. Any questions, guys? Cool. So no questions. Moving forward. So I promise there is other way that I will be showing you. So how many of you guys have the configuration information which I asked you to download? Let me open that. So where is that? Requirements.docs. I don't have. Okay, I have it here. So this is one more IDE. It is similar to Eclipse. Okay, you can also use this IDE to create. Oh, it went to Shahan Ahmad. I wanted to everyone. Okay. So this is the IDE which we'll be downloading and using. Okay, to create our web applications. Sorry, our Spring Boot applications. So let me click on that, or I'll just directly go here, copy paste. Okay, let's find the appropriate one. Spring tools for Eclipse. I don't want Spring tools. I want STS. Where is my STS? Spring Boot, Spring Initializer, projects training. No. Let me go to Google. STS download. STS Spring Test Suite download. Okay, here you go. Windows 64-bit. So it's a jar file. You can extract. It's taking time, guys. Okay, in the meantime, let's have a discussion about the understanding of Spring Boot. From the discussion, what we had till now, what did you guys understand about Spring Boot? Is it something like a new technology altogether, or is it also some kind of abstraction on top of existing technologies?
It is basically written top of the Spring framework.
Perfect. It is written on top of Spring framework. That's a good point. Actually, it is Spring framework, but they came up with a solution for the problems which we discussed. Okay, and they took the modules and they took everything from the Spring and they built a new framework on top of it. That's all. Still, you can see we have the jar files related to Spring MVC. We have the jar files related to Spring JPA. We have the jar files related to AOP, Spring AOP. We have jar files related to Spring Core. So it is built on top of Core again, Spring Core again. Okay, so in a layman terminology, let me explain in this way. I don't know how many of you guys prepared cake. Okay, so this I read it somewhere in an article, so I thought it may be helpful for you guys to understand. Okay, let's consider preparation of cake. Okay, what are the materials we need? So I would tell we need the milk, dough, we need oven, we need what else? Sugar, we need cream to apply on top of that. We need some eggs, right? At the end, we need to mix everything all together and put it in oven, right? Now consider this process as Spring in order to build a complete new application. So you have all the different modules available in the form of, let's say, the dough, eggs, a oven, and everything else, just like the modules, JDBC module, JMS module, testing module, core module, web module, everything. So to build, what you have to do, you have to mix everything and build application, right? So here, that is Spring. Now let's come to the other way of building. Okay, all we have to do is go outside, buy the cake. Okay, I mean, like, it's mixed. You can they will sell it mixed version of cake, and you can cook it in your house. Actually, all you have to do is get that and place it in oven. Okay, and then you can eat it. That's all. So that is Spring Boot, right? What does it mean? So they are mixing all the modules here. Let's say I can get the Spring Web as a Spring Start initializer. All the modules related to web will be there, right? Including core module, Spring MVC module, everything will be there. All I have to do is use it appropriately and build my application. I hope it gave an good idea, guys. Was it clear, or am I confusing you guys with other unrelated example? Was it unrelated, or did you guys get it what I'm trying to tell?
Clear.
Am I audible to you guys by any chance? No S?
Yes, audible.
Okay. Thank you. Oh, it's still taking time. Okay. In the meantime, I'll show you the other way of running. Okay. Let's not waste time. In the meantime, I'll show you the other way of running the application. Let's find out where we downloaded our application. Let me go to projects. Where is projects? Projects, demo application. I'm moving command prompt here basically, guys. I have git bash because I am familiar with working with the Unix commands. So I'm going with the git bash. If you want, you can use normal command prompt as well. There's not much difference. Right. So all you have to do is first use the mvn commands, clean install. If you have inserted or if you specified some other dependencies apart from what you got it from the spring starter IO, if you have specified, then you need to run this, because when you run clean install only, it will try to pick all the it will try to gather all the dependencies. Okay, it's doing something now. Okay, the build is successful. Now I can use the same command which I specified earlier, mvn spring boot run. This is a command which I'm telling my maven. Okay, the artifact which you are trying to run is a spring boot application. Just follow these instructions, like spring boot run the application. Again, guys, there are multiple commands. Okay, as we go forward in our this training, I'll show you the different uses of different commands. For now, we learn 2 commands, right? Let's see what it'll do. In fact, I feel this is a cleaner way of running the application. Let me enlarge it for you. Yeah, there is a build failure 80 again 8899 was an okay. Let me kill that. Net start is not recognized. Net nest card net net stat. Okay, there is a port which is using already, so kill it. Okay, now we can use our command to run. Okay, now it started 8889. So any questions on that, guys? Okay, if no questions, we can move forward. Cool. So anyway, it is taking too much time, but if you extract, there will be a STS available. I'll show you how STS is available, looks like. STS release. So it will create a folder like this. So you have, where's my STS? Here. Okay. So this is your IDE. This is also a wrapper on top of Eclipse, guys, again. So it looks like exactly like Eclipse. There's no much difference. I'll open that. It's taking some time. Let it load. This is basically maintained by Pivotal team, guys. The Spring tool suite. Pivotal guys are the ones who are maintaining the Spring Boot framework. Okay, launch. I don't need this. I'll close it. Close window. Yes. Okay, so it looks exactly similar to Eclipse. You can create a new project by clicking on File, New, Spring Starter project. See that? Click on that. Yeah, from where it has to pick. Again, it will try to download the same, whatever the configuration which we saw. It'll try to download everything from start.spring.io, and the name of the project you can give again test STS, something like, since it is a testing application, test STS. Okay, mine is Maven jar and my language is Java, but version is 8 and the group ID is com.test. Yeah, everything looks good for me. That's all. Click next. And if you want, this is a better view of viewing what are all the starters available. Spring Web again for now, just for information purpose. Let's click on web. So you can add that. Oh, okay, cool. Spring Web. You can add that. That's all. Next, finish. So now it will take some time for to download it from the actually springstarter.io website, and we can see that here test. So it's still importing. Okay. Okay, anyway, this is a way to create using STS, guys. So it will have the same structure. It will generate the same class name. So resources, we have application.properties. In fact, it can be application.ml as well, that depends. And we have SRC test Java. So application test. We didn't cover this topic in Spring. I will cover it in the Spring Boot. Okay, better way of doing the testing. And the pom.xml, if you open, the same dependency will be there. We didn't change any dependency. Why is it taking so much time? Okay, same dependency will be there. So any questions on that, guys? Again, it is your comfort level whether to use STS or Eclipse. But Eclipse does not provide a way to create Spring Boot application. But you can create a Maven application and convert it into a Spring Boot application. That is feasible. So it is your choice, guys. It is your personal preference whether to use STS or to use Eclipse. Both are same. So any questions on that? Okay. If we do not have any questions, then we can move forward and we can quickly implement the same application what we have been doing for past 5 days to a Spring Boot application. Is that fine? Is everybody okay with that?
Yes, Harish.
Okay, sure. Now I'm going back to Spring Starter IO to create a project for me. So this is my Spring Starter IO. This time it's a Maven project, Java 2.4. Instead of com.harish, let's name it com.truck. And it's not demo project. This time I'm naming it as, let's see, what do I have in my, project explorer? I have truck fleet and truck fleet management. So let's name it truck maintenance. 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 Description: truck fleet maintenance. So I want it as jar. I don't want it a var. Okay, it's 8 Java 8 version. I'm just generating it here. Oh, okay, wrong guys. My bad. I didn't introduce all the dependencies which I need. Okay, I just added Spring Web. Now let's see. I need to connect to MySQL, right? So let's go to MySQL. I added MySQL. Right. I need a validation. Validation IO. So what else I need, guys? What else we did? Validation IO. I need data. That is JDBC. Spring Data JDBC. So to connect to JDBC, to get the JDBC implementation, right? What else? Okay. Even though if you forget something, I'll show you how to add that. Let's keep this. Let's generate this. No ones. Show all. Show in folder. I'm going here. So desktop. Spring Boot training. Projects. Paste. Extract to here. Okay, this is my project, truck maintenance. Let's import that into our IDE. Okay. Where is my truck maintenance? Is here, right over here. So let's quickly review pom.xml and let's add if we need anything. But Spring Data, Spring Starter validation, Spring Starter web, MySQL connector, that is good. I need test and everything is fine. Looks good. Now let's quickly, whatever we did when we migrated from a normal dynamic web application to Maven web application. So we copy pasted, right? Let's do the same here. Truck management. I'll copy beans. I don't need configuration because if you remember correctly, our Spring Boot is auto configurable. I mean, it has the ability to configure everything for us. It's opinion oriented. Controller I did. DAO I need. DAO helper I need. Okay, so I don't need MySQL.properties. In fact, I'll be directly hard coding them in my application.properties. Okay, now let's see what is the error here. So there is a tuck service. So how can I forget a service here? I need service. Cool. Now let's go and quickly review this DOI Okay, if you remember correctly, guys, Shahan was asking he cannot use this query JDBC template.query for int because we were running on 3.1.2. Now there is a compatibility issue because we upgraded our Spring versions. So here there is a different way of doing that to query for int. All you have to do is query for object. Come on. Integer dot class, and that's all. You'll get int, even though it is deprecated. So it's also deprecated, but still it works. Okay, now we did everything. Let's copy only pages. Okay, now guys, are you guys seeing any web content or webinf this folder structure anywhere? It's not available. Right? Because it's a Spring Boot application, it won't create for you. It won't create a Spring web application or project folder structure for you, right? So we need to do that. Let's see quickly how we can do that. All we have to do is add a web app folder. So I can add it in main, Java, resources and everything. I can add it in main. New folder. Let's name it web app. Right. Let's finish it. Now let me paste everything in here. All the JSP files. Okay, I copy pasted everything here. Now what are we missing? I need to, if you remember correctly, I need to still provide I need to still tell my Spring Boot what is my internal view resolver, and I need to provide configuration details to my JDBC template, right? Okay, let's see. For that, I'll be using application.properties. Okay. So remember, guys, I was telling whatever you need, whatever the configuration you have to provide, you can provide it in here. Let's say for now, I need to tell the internal view resolver details. Spring dot, it is part of MVC. Spring dot MVC dot, and it is view, right? It's a view dot prefix equal to slash. So that's, if you remember correctly, that is a prefix which we are using. Spring dot MVC dot view dot suffix. So if you remember correctly, we are using .jsp, right? So that's all. My internal view resolver is configured. Am I writing any code? No, no need of boilerplate code. All we need is just provide the appropriate information in application.properties. Now, how can I configure JDBC connectivity? Simply, all I need to do is pass the details to data source. So again, it is part of spring.data source. Remember, we need to pass all the information regarding the URL, username, password. So for that, let me open because I don't know what is my URL. So I'll copy paste from here, guys. Like that. So URL equal to, right, this one. Now spring.data source dot I need to specify driver, right? That is a driver class. Driver class equal to com.driver. Now next, I need to specify spring.data source dot my username, right? My username to connect to database, that is equal to root. I have to specify spring dot data source dot password equal to, I need to specify my password. So the same password I'm copy pasting. Delete. Guys, did I do any kind of hard coding here? I mean, like the boilerplate code. Did I write any boilerplate code here? All I just did is provided the configuration. That means where it has to look up for connection, right? How it has to connect, and what is my username and what is my password. Similarly for view resolver. So my Spring Boot is opinion oriented and auto configurable. That means it will create some beans for me. All I'm doing is using that and passing the appropriate information for my beans. Here in our case, it will create an internal view resolver, but it expects prefix and suffix. So that's why I'm passing here. In case of this one, so it will create a data source for me, but it accepts URL, driver class, root name, and password. That's all. Remember, I'm not creating any JDBC template here. That will be taken care by the Spring Boot itself. How? Based on this configuration, this whatever the bean which will be created after injecting this configuration, so it will create as a data source and it will be injected into our JDBC template class. Okay, injected in the sense it will be wired, the auto configured. Clear on that concept, guys? Any questions? So okay, if no questions, let's quickly build it. So anyway, I think there will be the port is already in use, so I will change the port. Server dot port port equal to port. So let me go with 8777. I'll open this. So I'll use this. It is space. I'll be using the command line, guys. ls cd space maintenance. So mvn clean install. If there is any issue with our application, we can find out in the logs printing here. Okay. Okay. Here we configured JDBC, right? Let's see. Let's analyze the logs, what our Spring Boot is doing for us. Now, let's run this mvn spring hyphen boot colon run. Okay, that was quick. So now we can see bootstrapping Spring Data JDBC repositories into default mode. So it is doing something related to JDBC, right? And then finish Spring Data repository scanning, JDBC repository interfaces, right? Next, same coming back again, web application context initialization, application executor, and there is no context path, and started in 877. Let's see what is the problem. If there is any problem, else it should come up 877 localhost colon 8777. Oh, it's taking time. Did we miss any of the dependencies, guys? Let's check that. Why is it not coming up? Okay, it's not reachable. That is fine. 877 just started. Okay, let's see what are we missing in our dependencies. Okay, let's go to our dependencies. Form.xml. Oh, there is an unknown error. Okay, com.truck. Yes. Remember, guys. Now it makes sense. So this is a good situation for understanding the problem. Okay. Now, what did I tell when we explained about the actual Spring Boot application? This usage. So I told it will be enabling a component scan, and it will start scanning from com.truck.maintenance. Right now, here my all the other classes, they are present in different packages, and and all the packages did not start with com.truck.truck maintenance. So it is under com.truck.service. So that's my component scan will not scan them, because again it's because whatever the packages starts after this com.truck.truck maintenance, and if it has com.truck.truck maintenance.service, it could have scanned. So that is why it is failing. So let's fix that. How can I fix it? Component scan, again the same. I'm overriding the default behavior by imposing the same component scan package, sorry, component scan annotation. Right, base package just equal to, so you can pass multiple packages, but I'm passing com, which means scan all the packages which comes after com and also com, right? That starts from com. Okay, I'll show you what is com actually. Let me go to demo. So src main Java. So I'm specifying my Spring Boot to scan anything after this and inside the com also. So if you go inside the com, this is a structure I have inside that. Oh, this is a, okay, this is a different way, but it is, I'm showing this reach and demo project and everything inside that com. Let me find the appropriate way. Truck maintenance. Yes, this is a good one. So I included web app as well. Now com, inside that com there is a truck, inside the truck. So these are all on the same level. So that's why only this package classes will be scanned. The other things will be ignored because I didn't specify them. Now we did that. Let's quickly restart that. Shutting it down again. Mvn clean install. Okay, before executing this, do you guys have any questions or any concerns, or did you guys didn't understand what was a mistake I did and how I fixed it? Maybe let's check whether it's fixed or not. But we found out the problem, right? So you guys understood, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Harish.
Yes, sir.
One thing.
Yep.
What did you use in that? Because again, I'm encountering that error for query for int. Did you change that?
Okay, let's see. I'm also getting some error here. io.r2.spi connection factory. What is that now? A new one. r.springframework.beans store exception failed to parse configure class maintenance dot exception, illegal state, could not find class io dot r2ddc spike connection factory. Okay, it is something related to our configuration, guys. Basically something related to dependencies which we add. And to answer your question,
तो लैपटॉप से काम करो ना
let me
यार
open and I'll show you. Can you please go on mute, whoever, if they don't have any queries? Thank you.
उसमें नेट ही नहीं 5 मिनट के बाद में पूरा नेट खत्म हो जितना लगाओ उतना खत्म हो जा रहा है
मेरे मोबाइल से चलाओ फिर ये
तो ये चार्ज वो चार्ज लग रहा
Oops. Okay, now the DAO thing, I just did that. That's all. Even though it is deprecated, still it executes. Did I answer your question?
Okay, but for me it is showing error.
So what is the version which you are using? Open this form.xml. So what is the version you are using?
Yeah,
So I'm using 2.4.0.
the default project 2.4.0 only. Yeah,
How come it's
that one
showing error?
only.
I don't understand. Just do clean install, ambient clean install.
Okay, okay, sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, just do ambient clean install. So it has to pick up the JDBC version. Okay, now let's coming back
Yes.
to some issue with our project. So we are missing some of the dependencies related to what? Something it's failing for connectivity. So JDBC, Java, I have. So validation, I have. Where is my JDBC? Perfect. Validation. Data JDBC connection, MySQL. Didn't we include Java X servlet? Okay, let me include that. This is for Jstl. Sometimes it may create problem as well. Okay. Spring Dot. What else am I missing? So I may include Tomcat as well. The version which I wanted, not the version which is running on. So previously I was running on 9, I guess. So I'm including that. So this is a way you can include, guys. If you include any other dependency, it will override the existing dependency. So that means the new dependency will be taken. So anything else? Do I need aspects? Do I need aspects? Okay, let me put that as a dependency because we had dependencies on the aspects. I mean like AOPs. So that's the aspect dependency. A starter for that. This is a way if you miss some dependencies while creating the project, you can add it again here. Okay, it's taking time. Let it load. Now let's quickly have a look at other dependencies. So I have web, I have validation, I have JDBC, and that's all I need. If something goes wrong, guys, I'll fall back to the different version of Spring. Okay, let's check it out. If maybe the way we wrote may not be compatible with the latest version. Sharon, did you recover that? I mean, like, did you fix the error, or still are you having same error?
Still having that same error.
That is weird.
Yeah.
Okay, let me run this and then we can do a quick screen share and I can fix
Sure.
it.
Sure.
Let me run this. VM clean install. Did you use the settings.xml file which I gave you yesterday? There is nothing to do with that, but just assuming that it will pick the latest versions. That's all. Okay.
No, I didn't use that.
Okay. But you have a legitimate settings.xml, right? I mean, like, which is working properly.
Yes, it is working.
Cool. Why is it taking so much time now? Oh, again, I'm getting the same error. Okay, build failure. truck maintenance application, failed to load bean definition, store exception, failed to parse configuration class. Did I include any configuration class? I did not have any configuration class. Beans controller, DAO, helper, service, I removed them. Okay, I am going to use 2.3.4.release. This is under development still, so I'm just changing that. It should work. So this time I changed the entire configuration, guys. So that's why it will pull all the new jars again. It's not supposed to come this many testing. Again, no, I'm missing something. That is for sure. Now it's time to find out. What am I missing? Fail to parse configuration class. Okay. Anyway, we are near time, guys. Sharon, I will make you host. Let's try to at least fix your issue and we can see this tomorrow. Where can I find you? Where are you? I can't find you. Oh, here. More, make as host. Make host. Yes, please do share that. Let's see. So I'll stop sharing. Stop sharing. Okay, you can proceed.
Can you see my screen?
Wait, I can't hear you. Wait just a minute, please. Why is that I'm not able to see your screen? Yes, I can see your screen. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
So there is a problem in your SRC 1.8. Okay, that is cool. JDBC you added. Okay, everything is good.
So this is the.
Okay, you need to add. I don't have control, right? Okay, you just need to type query for object.
Yeah.
Instead of int, you're writing a new line. Okay. Query for object. Capital O. Yes. String and the object params. Params. P-A-R-A-M-E-T-E-R-S. Parameters. Comma. Integer dot class.
Which class?
Integer. INTEZER dot class. This is a way to specify your JDBC template to return int. So now we don't have that error. Even though it is depreciated, it still works.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, cool. And make me host again, please.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We'll see we'll fix that exception tomorrow, guys. Today it's pretty late already. So do you guys have any questions? So no questions? No questions on anything? On any concept of boot or any concept of Spring, the way we created projects and the way we are running it. So no issues, right? Okay, I hope you guys will practice it today and come up with some doubts in case if you have any. And thanks for your time, guys. Thanks for attending.